What's up, everybody? We have reached the 20s, our roaring 20s, episode number 20 of Big Five Pod. I am, of course, your co-host, Kyle Morello. Next to me right here, Jake Copestick. Cope, how we doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. And for two
Anything
Temple
crazy happened this weekend, or
yeah, the Cowboys lost again to the 49ers.
Oh,
Yeah. But hey, for two Temple alum, if there's any day that we were gonna break out our cherry and white and our Temple tees, it's today. I can't believe they did that for the first time since before I was born. Temple beat the number one team in America. They went down to Houston, went to the Fertitta Center, came out victorious against the number one team in the country. That was crazy. That was wow. I still can't believe they did that. Me and Kyle are going to be eating crow because everything that we thought would happen this game didn't, and we were so wrong. But we'll get to that. We'll eat our words. We have no problem doing so because Temple just picked up one of the best wins they've had the last decade, 20 years, no matter how you look at it. I mean, that seriously is an all-time win for a program and definitely one for Aaron McKee. So we'll get to that. But wow. How about the cherry and the white?
how about the cherry and the white? Fight, fight, fight. Oh, you know what? We're just going to get right into it. There's nothing else to say. I intentionally put this game first because how could we not? If you haven't heard the news, the Temple University went on down to Houston, beat the University of Houston 56-55 on their home floor. Listen, it was ugly. It was definitely not the most sexy win that Temple's ever had, especially this season, but they got the job done. Damian Dunn, 16 points on 3 of 12 shooting, led the way for the Owls. Zach Hicks, 12 points on 4 of 10 for himself. Kurjan Kook had 2 blocks. Nick Jourdain had 2 blocks. Both of them combined for 2 blocks in the final possession of the game, which we'll get into in a second. It was just a phenomenal defensive possession, not even just on that possession, but effort for the entire game. As you could probably tell by the shooting percentage in this one, it was ugly. Temple only shot 31% from the floor, 33% from 3. Houston also shot in the low 30s too, so it was ugly. But here's where it counts. Temple went 20 of 22 from the line, and that includes a Damian Dunn miss very late in the I almost said the fourth quarter. I'm thinking about this team right here. Very late in the second half. And they did combine for, what is that math? 35 turnovers. They had 16 of their own, the Owls. Houston had 19, which is brutal. Listen, I think it's fair to say that they beat Houston at their own game here. Houston's a team that grinds you out. Yes, they're great offensively too. Not in this one, but overall for the season. But they forced them to turn the ball over. They overcame their own turnover issues. Shot the ball really, really well from the line. I mean, that last possession was something out of a dream. I don't even know the way they played defense. And then even on the final 1.4 where they got the lob opportunity there, I was scared. I'm not going to lie to you. I was very, very scared, but they ended up pulling through. Cope, this is the signature win of the Aaron McKee era, as we tweeted from our Big Five Twitter account. Make sure you follow at Big Five Pod. You know, just take it away. I just want to hear what you got to say because this is awesome.
So I still can't believe they did this. Just a quick little nugget here. The last time Temple beat the number one team in America was on February 20th, 2000 against Cincinnati. John Chaney was coaching Temple. Kyle, who was the coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats at the time?
That is a good question. Ooh. I don't know. Was that the Kenyon Martin team or was that after Kenyon Martin?
I believe it was after. Regardless, though, let me just give you an answer. Ready for this? Guy's still coaching today. Bob Huggins was the coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
Been a long time since it happened. And wow, I mean, that last couple possessions, last few minutes, I mean, my heart wanted to jump out of my chest. I mean, this was a great game. Like you said, it was ugly, but it's never pretty with Temple. But who cares? Who cares when you're winning like they are? Who cares? Doesn't have to be pretty. You'd rather win ugly than lose pretty any day of the week. Yeah, they were missing shots. Both teams were. Both teams didn't shoot the ball well. It was a fierce physical game. They were making free throws. They didn't score a basket for the last 7 minutes of this game. 7 minutes plus. They did not have a field goal, and they still pulled this out. Their defense was good. I thought that Zach Hicks and Nick Jourdain were able to switch on the guards effectively and bother them. But offensively in this game, they diced Houston up like I really haven't seen anybody do. They got the ball into the middle of the floor, whether it was Jourdain, Zach Hicks. Jourdain did a really good job of this stuff. He would dump the ball down low to John Cooch. He'd kick out to an open shooter. Like if they just got in the middle of the shell here and they just got in the middle of the floor and they got the ball there, they were getting themselves quality looks. And you think about a team like Houston that flies around on defense, that contests everything. That just wasn't happening here in the first half and really for most of this game. So it was crazy to me to see Houston seem like the team that was uninterested here, because we've seen Temple get out to some slow starts, lose games to teams that they should beat, let teams hang around that they should beat. But they really played like a complete 40 minutes here that we really haven't seen them do. But that's the thing about this team. When we first started doing this pod, we talked about they have the talent to make the tournament. We thought if they stayed healthy, they could make it there. This is what they're capable of. And now you're seeing it, even without Jamil Reynolds in there. They're capable of performances like this. You just have to be on every night. A great team and a good team will win games here and there, but a great team will play a complete 40 minutes. A great team will keep it on you for the whole game, not let you back in. There's a tough place to go play. This is a tough team to go play with everything that they do, rebounding the ball, playing defense, getting 50-50 balls. But Temple grinded this one out. They made free throws. Houston didn't. You look at the free throws. Temple with 22, Houston with 21. It's not like you can complain about a free throw disparity if you're the Cougars, but wow. Defensively, they got stops late. John Cooch with a huge block on a Jamal Shed layup, and then Reggie Chaney got the offensive rebound, and Nick Jourdain was able to tip it out of bounds. And I was telling you before we got on, when I saw, I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, Houston's only got to play for 2. There's no need to play for 3. You have a second left. You're going to get a very rushed look if you're going to get a jumper. I see Tremont Mark run the baseline. He does a little curl, and it reminded me almost of when Duke and Virginia Tech were playing the Zion year, and Virginia Tech missed a very similar wide open good look to win the game, and it rimmed out. I think Temple was definitely fortunate for that one to rim out, but regardless, they were the team that deserved to win this one. I've never really seen Houston go into a game like that where they look like the disinterested team. Because usually if you show up disinterested or you show up not playing at your best, you're going to get pounced on by this team and you're going to get pummeled. So what a win for these guys. I still can't believe that they did it. Of all things, you think this Houston team's only got 1 loss all year, and it's to Alabama, who I believe just moved up to 2 in the newest rankings. And now their only other loss on the year is to Temple at home. Crazy. I can't believe they pulled this out. But we talked about this team having the talent to be able to make the tournament, and this was that on display for sure. So we know how good this team can be, but again, you got to play 40 minutes. You got to be consistent, but don't look back. Only look forward. It's only a little bit of time. March is going to be here before you know it. There's a lot of work to do, but wow, what a hell of a win for these guys. And we were very, very wrong about everything that we said. I'll eat my words. I'll do a buffet style. I'll go up for seconds. I'll go get dessert. And I gladly will, because wow, I still can't believe they pulled this off. These guys deserve it, and this is a hell of a win. Not only the best in the Aaron McKee era, but literally this is one of the best in the history of the program.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this on Monday night, and even a day later, I still can't believe it. And by the time this gets posted on Tuesday, I still won't be able to believe it. So, just a great win for the Owls. And listen, like you said, you don't want this to be present for a while, celebrate it today, move on to tomorrow, move on to the next day. And, they have a game coming up, which we're going to get into toward the end of this episode, but you got to move on because listen, I think an at-large bid for this team is probably done for at this point. They're 12-9. Usually the benchmark for bubble teams is about 10 or 11 losses. It's about the maximum you can do. And plus some of their losses are really bad losses like Wagner and Maryland Eastern Shore. So I think they've probably, afforded all the losses they can, except to maybe if they play Houston again and lose. I think they could probably make an exception for that since they did win against Houston. So, and maybe even Memphis too, because that first game was really, really close. So if they ended up beating Memphis, or if they play another close game versus Memphis, we'll see what happens. But pretty much at this point, they need to win the American in order to make the tournament. But you know what? They just proved that they have the talent to make the NCAA tournament. They have the talent to compete with the top team in the country or top teams in the country. It's just whether they want to put it all together or not. They finally did in this game, even though they didn't shoot very well, but their effort was there and their defensive prowess was there. And listen, they just have to show that, like you said, consistently, and we'll see what happens. But we're going to move on from that. I don't want to, but we're going to. We did have another win though in the in the Big Five this week. St. Joe's at home. We talked about their at-home record. Got another win there, beating UMass 74-68. And the two stars of this team showed out in this game. Cam Brown, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 9 of 12 from the field. And Eric Reynolds, 23 points and 6 rebounds on 6 of 18 from the field. Not as efficient shooting from him, but the scoring was definitely there, which they needed. The Hawks shot 44% from the field, 30% from 3. Not too bad. They did unfortunately have 14 turnovers, but UMass had 17. So, which I think we saw in the first game that we just went over, that was a theme, and it's going to be a theme for another couple games we're going to go over here. Overall, listen, this UMass team, quality team. We've talked about them before. We talked about them in the last episode going into this one. It's a good win. It's a good win at home against a quality team. And that's 3 in a row now for St. Joe's. So, I believe they call that a winning streak. So it's good to stack up some wins here. We were kind of down in the dumps on Hawk Hill, and now we're starting to climb back up. So, Cope, takeaways from this one.
So, I mean, mainly just to play Cameron Brown. I mean, he's legitimately having like an all Big Five, like an all Big Five first team season here. He's shout out to the guys at Big 5+1. I won't steal any stats from anybody and then not give him credit for. He's 9th in D1 in 3-point percentage, over 45%. He's having a great year. He had a really good game at LaSalle. He had another good one here. And, I think coming into the season, obviously we know about his 3-point shooting, what he could bring to the table, but I think we were expecting a little bit out of Lynn Greer as well. Like, hey, he was at Dayton. He's now going to come in here and be able to play a lot more. But I mean, Cam Brown's really become the star of the show. I mean, obviously we know about Eric Reynolds, and he had a good game at LaSalle. Here you said, maybe efficiency wise, not the greatest from him, but he was still able to pour in some points. But Cam Brown's having a terrific season, and they're going to be able to steal games and pick off guys if he can continue to shoot the ball the way he is and score. As far as this UMass team goes, they're all right, I guess. I mean, they're definitely a better team with Noah Fernandez, like we talked about. I said that I would take St. Joe's to win this game if he didn't play, and he ended up not suiting up for this one and not playing. Just a way better team offensively, moving the ball, being able to score, and then obviously with his scoring prowess as well. They're just a better team when he's out there, and when he's not, it's not that great. They got blown out against VCU on the road. They have a loss against George Washington and Foggy Bottom. So this team not great on the road. You take away their point guard, obviously, not really recipe for success there. But regardless of who the opponent is or whatnot, go for the Hawks. It's 3 in a row. Still a long way to go as far as the season goes, but hey, not too bad, right? I mean, they started out losing a couple of games in conference play, and we were unsure what could happen here, if it was going to be a gloomy season, and wins are going to be hard to come by. But for them to get 3 in a row, good for them, and just really impressed with the play of Cameron Brown. This guy continues to bring it, and ball's going through the hoop for him. It's a mile wide for him right now, so hopefully he can keep this up, because he's really having a terrific season. And one of the, not many people can say that they got one of the best 3-point shooters in the entire country in their program, and he's got the stats to back it up too. So what a year he's having. Hopefully he can keep it up for the Hawks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's a big thing because preseason, I think we kind of talked about like who would be the second guy next to Eric Reynolds on Hawk Hill, and Cam Brown stepped up and has been that. I think we, like you mentioned, did think it would be Lynn Greer. He did have a past few good games, but this one, not so much. And really the whole season has been very inconsistent. So for Cam Brown to step up and be top 10 in 3-point percentage in the country is not too shabby. All right, we're actually going to keep with the wins here. I was going to go kind of reverse chronological order a little bit, but we're going to keep with the wins here. Friday night at the Garden, Villanova beating St. John's 57-49, completing the sweep of them in Big East play. Caleb Daniels, 16 points on 6 of 10 from the field. Brandon Slater, 14 points and 5 of 7 from the field. Nova shot 36.5%, not really that great, but St. John's only 32%. So credit to Villanova's defense. And from 3-point range wasn't really much better. Villanova 33.3%, and St. John's 25%. And once again, a turnover fest. St. John's at 16, Nova had 17. So That's not great, but listen, a win's a win. A win's a win. We had talked about the fact that they match up pretty well with the St. John's team. Obviously, they beat them in the first game they played earlier. I believe it was at the end of December, not this month, but the end of December. They desperately needed this against a quality team. And listen, that's 2 in a row for them now. I know the first one was against Georgetown, so not the best opponent, but this one's more a quality opponent. And at this point, you just want to stack wins if you're Villanova. So what are your takeaways from this? A little bit of a sloppy one at the Garden on Friday night.
So yeah, it was definitely sloppy, especially in the first half. Kyle Neptune picked up a technical in this one, which usually I would say, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? But I think this team kind of needed it. I think they needed a jolt, and he needed to put a fire under them. So started playing a lot better after that. You talk about the turnovers, which I've said a billion times when we talk about St. John's. If you're going to turn the ball over and you're going to let this team use their athleticism, their speed, their length, and get out in transition and get easy buckets, that's how you're going to lose to them, because in the half court, they're not a great team. And they showed again, they take bad shots in the half court and don't value possessions as much as they should. So when you allow them to get out in transition like that, they can build a lead. They can keep the game close. You can keep them in it. But the second half of this game, Eric Dixon, he was 1 of 10, still was fighting, got himself a basket, got himself to the free throw line. 11 rebounds from him is huge. But when we were talking about the Georgetown game, what stuck out, even though it's not a great opponent, and to be honest with you, I think this is at the point where St. John's now needs to win the Big East tournament to get into March Madness. I thought they could maybe sneak in if stuff went right for them, but I'm not seeing it with this team. I think they're going to have to run the table in the Big East tournament to get in. So sure, they're a good team if you look at their record, I guess, but I don't really view this as like a top quality win. But regardless, they got stops at the end. They've had trouble closing out games because on the defensive end, they couldn't get stops late. And this is another game where the Johnnies, within striking distance, within a possession, or within 4 points, Brandon Slater picks off an Andre Curbelo pass, goes down and dunks it. And then even though the game was, I think, 6 points at that point with maybe 10 seconds left, they got another steal and Dylan Adewusu trying to get inside the 3-point line. So, and then Trey Patterson ended up getting involved and getting a late layup. So, but they got stops late when they really needed it. The Johnnies did not shoot well in this game, but regardless, very low scoring affair at the Garden. They got stops late, and that's what they're going to have to do if they want to continue to stack wins. So encouraging to see that on a night where shots didn't really go in for many people. Both teams shot under 40%, and it wasn't that great. From three, they were combined 11 of 36. So not a great shooting game from these guys, but when you can pull out a win like that, you can get stops late. And then Mark Armstrong, a guy who's played well last couple games scoring wise, he didn't have nearly as good a game scoring as he did the last couple games, but he had a huge play where Nova was up 3. He brings the ball inside the paint, quick behind the back move, slams on the brakes, is able to hit a short pull up and give them a basket to extend their lead to 5. So it's plays like that from the young guys that are huge, because they're going to need all those young guys, Housen, Whitmore, Armstrong, to play very well for them if they want to make some sort of run here. So yeah, it's not against the greatest team. They didn't shoot the ball well, but they found a way to win. They got stops late. A win's a win. They're at 2 now. Kind of a bye week, I guess, for them. They have 9 days off. They're going to play Providence on Sunday. We'll have a preview for that game coming up later in the week. But they get a little bit of a rest here, which I don't know if that's good or bad for them, because, hey, after 2 straight wins, you think, hey, like, let's keep it rolling. Let's keep playing. We want to keep doing this. But regardless, they get 9 days off. They got a big game coming up at home, and a second win in a row for them against the Johnnies. So it's just same old, same old. Turn the ball over. Bad shot in the half court. They missed some free throws in this game too. So good win for Villanova, but the St. John's team, man, I'm telling you, they played a very soft non-conference schedule. That 11-1 that they came out with in the conference play was not indicative of how good this team was. Sorry to say that, but besides maybe Iowa State, not really sure who this team got like a quality win over in the non-conference. So it's a good win, because it's hard to win on the road. And this Villanova team, 28-3 in Madison Square Garden since 2014. Not too bad, right? And I did mention that they like playing there. They got the record to back it up. So it's Good win for them, 2 in a row. We'll see if they can keep rolling against a really good Providence team if they're healthy coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how many attendees will be at that Villanova Providence game. I think there might be something else going on around our area on Sunday. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully people show
Maybe.
up, but I
I
think
think the
there's
game's going to stay there, though. I think they were talking about moving it. I think they are going to keep
where
it.
they I did actually didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, I wouldn't think that's like an awful decision, but at the same time, it's a home game. You want to play at your place. I don't know where else they'd move it to. I mean, yeah, all the attention's going to be on the Birds, but you play the home game. There will be people who show up. But yeah, tough one coming up for them on Sunday. But nonetheless, a good win to have under their belt and hopefully build some momentum to their game against Providence. So that is that. We will now move on to the couple losses that we had in the Big Five this weekend. I'm going to start with the least disappointing one. St. Louis beating LaSalle 84-71. Listen, we talked about the St. Louis team. They're the best team in the Atlantic 10 right now. We knew this was going to be a tough matchup. And it was. Fusina Drame 14-7 on 5 of 14 from the field. Khalil Brantley 13 points, 7 rebounds on 4 of 13 from the field. Shepard had 12 and 10 off the bench, so definitely a good contribution from him. And Anwar Gill also had 11 points off the bench too, so not bad there. However, they did only shoot 35.7%, so not the most efficient game in the world from the Explorers. And they had 10 turnovers, which honestly, not that bad. Not that bad considering where they've been in the past. Listen, this is just a situation where they got outplayed. They got outplayed by a team with more talent. And on the road too. I mean, it was difficult. And I don't know. I think this team will be representing the Atlantic 10 in the NCAA tournament. It's going to be them or Dayton, but right now this is looking like the best team in this conference. So I know there's probably not really a lot to take away, but is there anything that you can really think of?
So I will say, I mean, hey, Deshaun Shepard coming off the bench with a double-double. That's definitely good to see. And then after Fusini Drama had the game that he did against St. Joe's, you'd want him out there a lot. The only problem with that is we talked about how Francis Okoro's size and length could give this LaSalle team problems if they decided to not roll with Mamadou Ducouré or Rokas Josias inside. And he showed that a 20 rebound game, a monster game on the glass. But that happens when you're going to play small, but there certainly is advantages to it in LaSalle's area, because when you play smaller, you're able to switch more and you're also able to stretch the floor a little bit more. So it's a bit of a give and take, but we talked about how Francis Okoro's size and length inside could definitely be a problem. Might want to correct you a little bit on saying that St. Louis is the best team in this conference. I certainly think you can make an argument for it, but right now I think VCU is playing their best. They got a win over Richmond. They've been on a little bit of a win streak here. They blew out Loyola. They had a win at Dayton that they kind of stole on the road. So I think
it's a clear top 3 right now between VCU, Dayton, and St. Louis. But I mean, either way, this was a very, very talented team that lost to here.
Yeah, and especially on the road too. I don't think many people thought that they would squeak one out here. So no shame in losing that. Like you said, it's to a team that's got maybe the best point guard in America in Yuri Collins. When you look at assists and steals and such, a really good 3-point shooter in Gibson Jimerson, and then Okoro inside, who had a monster game. I believe he had 12 points, 20 boards in this game. And if anybody on the other team's going to have 20 boards, I'm not really sure how many times you win that game. So not really one to sulk over. They got a game tomorrow that we'll talk about, but you're on the road, got to fly halfway across the country, I guess, to St. Louis, got to play against one of the premier teams in the league. No one's really faulting you for this. They're going to have to get that shooting percentage up, though. They didn't shoot it very well against St. Joe's, another game where they're only at about 35%, like you said. So they're going to have to start knocking down some shots if they want to win some games here. But no, I'm not going to bash LaSalle for this one. You got to play a good team in the conference, got to go on the road. You know, like I said, I don't think many people really gave them a chance to win this one. And I guess rightfully so. It's a team that they got better players. They got to play on the opposing team's court. So they got a game coming up tomorrow, which is good. You hate to see the skid that they have, losing 2 games after going on a nice little winning streak, but it happens. We'll see if they can get the ship right tomorrow against Davidson.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things where you just, okay, we lost, it's a good team. Let's move on. Try to bounce back and fight back in the next one.
Mhm.
So that's exactly what they'll do, and we'll go over that one in a few minutes here. But next we have the fifth and final game of the weekend for the Big Five. And honestly, this was the one I was definitely the most disappointed in. Yale beating Penn 70-63. Listen, great bounce back game from Jordan Dingle, 27 points, 10 of 17 from the field. Definitely needed that. But outside of him, there's just nothing right now. I mean, the next highest scorer was Nick Spinoso, 11 points and 4 of 10 from the field. Not bad from him. You usually expect him to beat around that 8 to 12-ish range. So definitely good contributions from him. But Clark Slacker, 7 points, 3 of 9 from the field. They didn't shoot a bad percentage, shot 46% from the field, 38% from three. They had a -8 turnover margin though, 13-5. And they only shot 5 of 9 from the line. Not that that's like the worst thing in the world. I mean, definitely could be better, but they only went to the line 9 times, which is not good at all. Listen, I hate to say it, but this team's in free fall. This team is not looking good. They are in second to last in the Ivy League right now. Granted, they're only one game out of being in the top 4. It's a very, very tight conference right now, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the Quakers, and they still have a tiny bit amount of time to turn this around in February before, potentially making the Ivy League tournament. And they can definitely make up a game in that stretch, but it's going to be tough because they're not playing well and they're not shooting the ball particularly well. They did okay in this game, but they don't have a ton of scoring right now. I don't know. What do you see from this one, and what do you see from the Quakers overall? Because this is about to be sound the alarms time for them.
So the good thing that you mentioned, they're only a game out of being in the top 4, and that's all that matters here. Obviously, no team in the Ivy League is going to get an at-large. It's all about being in the top 4, putting yourself in a position to make the Ivy League tournament, and then, go ahead and potentially secure the automatic bid. But it's not hard. They just got to make shots. I thought Princeton played really well last Monday against them, but they still had some looks that they just didn't knock down. Obviously, they went 0 for 12, a historically bad game for them, but they just got to knock down shots. If they get open looks, just got to knock them down. They got to get Clark Slacker back on track. So he's really the key to this team for me. On most nights, we know we're going to get from Jordan Dingle. Is he going to have rough games here and there? Yes, everybody does. That's what happens. But if they can get Clark Slacker back in the groove here, when I saw them play the Cathedral Classic against Colgate, and he had 33, and him and Dingle combined for almost 60. And they beat a team that, shocker, the Colgate Raiders, atop the Patriot League again, looks like they're going to get the automatic bid in the conference to go to the tournament yet again. But when Slacker can have performances like that, this team's got a way higher chance of winning, because most nights what you're going to get from Jordan Dingle. Now, they did have a game tonight against Hartford. They've already played them. Hartford's not very good. It's not an Ivy League game because Hartford is one of 2 independents, along with Chicago State in D1, who aren't in the conference. So they're just throwing a schedule together. Now, they did win tonight. Max Marks, I believe, at 5 threes tonight, which is a good sign. And they're going to need him to continue to make shots, but they just got to knock him down. They got to make shots, and they got to get Clark Slacker going here, because I really think he's the key to the team. If he can also have 18, 20 point per game performances like we've seen him do, this team will win a lot more than they lose, because we know what we're going to get from Dingle, and we know all about his supreme talent and his scoring prowess. But they got to get him going. They got to get him some looks, but he's also got to knock them down. So, they just got to knock down shots. I'm telling you, it's not a hard algorithm.
Science.
You're going to make shots. You're going to score more than the other team. Wow, you're going to win. Wild. But that's all that's got to happen here. They got to shoot the ball better, but they got to get Clark Slacker. They got to get him back in the groove here. They got to get his confidence back up, because when he plays well, this team, they can hang with the best of them for sure, especially in this conference. So the good thing is there's a lot of parity in this conference this year. Even though they've lost 3 in a row, it's not like they've dug themselves a huge hole. There's still time to get out of it, but time it's not infinite here. It's a finite amount of time before the season ends, and the clock is going to keep ticking. So I guess it was a tune-up and a nice job for them to get a win against Hartford tonight, who unfortunately is just one of the worst teams in Division I. But they're going to have a game on Saturday. We're going to talk about it when the time comes later this week. But they got to get Clark Slacker right if they want to right the ship here.
Yeah, I mean, getting Slacker right's the biggest thing right now, just because Dingle is Batman who needs his Robin and Slacker. I mean, it's been that way for the entire season. At the beginning of the season, he was doing great. He was, having those 30-point nights, those high 20s points nights, and I know he got hurt for a little bit too, but he just hasn't been anywhere near that for a few weeks now. So getting him back there would be huge for Penn and could vault them to the top four. Like you said, like we've said, there's only a game out. So there's time, but time is ticking. And the other thing too, and we always talk about it, is the turnover margin. -8 in this game. And honestly, them turning the ball over 13 times is one of their better performances. Honestly, they consistently are in the high teens or the low 20s. They just need to do better. They just need to do better, and they need to have their shot making get back to what it was. So, like we said, we talk about it. We'll talk about them rather later this week, but it's not looking great for the Quakers right now. So hopefully they can turn it around and figure it out. But with that being said, let's go to some upcoming games here. We don't have all 5 going this work week here, but we do have 3. So we're gonna go over them right now. The first one, Davidson versus LaSalle at Tom Bowler Arena. This is on Tuesday night. This Davidson team, not that great. They've been usually historically pretty good in the Atlantic 10 over the last decade plus, but not this year. They're 9-10, 140th in KenPom, which isn't awful, but listen, this isn't a team that is going to impress you. They're 40th in 3-point percentage. They are 80th in offensive turnover percentage, which isn't that bad. And considering this LaSalle team's turnover woes, there's a chance that they'll win the turnover margin there. And they're led by a couple guys. Foster Lawyer, 15.6 points per game, 4.5 assists per game. And I might mess up this person's name, so please correct me if I do. Sam Menenga, 15.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game. Did I get it?
Nice job. Right on.
There's a lot of ends and E's in there.
Yeah.
So looking from a tiny bit of a distance, not like a huge distance. I actually have pretty good eyes, but I didn't know. But I'm glad I got it right because I try my best. I really do. And I know I mess up names sometimes. So if you are watching this as opposing teams players, I do apologize if I mess up your name. But Semenenga, I got that one right. But those are the 2 guys. But like I said, this team's not overly impressive. So I think, playing at home, maybe LaSalle can bounce back and win this one. What do you think's going to happen here?
So I think this could actually be a close game that they could definitely pull out. So this is a way different team in a lot of different areas from last year's team that still got an automatic bid to the tournament as a 10 seed and lost to Michigan State in the tournament. So number one, they got a change on the bench. So Bob McKillop, legendary coach of the game, coached for a very long time. He coached Steph Curry, got him to multiple tournaments, went on that great run when Steph Curry was there. He retires and his son Matt takes over. So they're keeping it in the family, but definitely a big change on the bench because the Silver Fox, Bob McKillop, legend of the game, very, very good coach, especially in this conference, getting Davidson to the A10 and still being able to have success with them. So we wish him all the best in retirement and definitely on a great career. And then player-wise, they lose Hyunjung Lee, who was a sharp shooter, a very good 3-point shooter for this team from last year. Luka Brajkovic, a guy who could score in the post, could stretch the floor a little bit and also pass as a big guy. He's out of there. Nelson Bochiidum, who backed up as a center, is at Hofstra now. Michael Jones, who was very good for them, is at Stanford. So the coach retires. A lot of guys leave. It's a very different team. However, the 2 guys you bring up, Foster Lawyer and then Sam Menenga, are still there. And you talk about the offensive turnover percentage of this team. That's because Foster Lawyer is a very smart point guard, a guy who's not going to put the ball in harm's way a lot. He shoots free throws well, just a good shooter in general, and a very quick guy who can get by people and get into the lane and create for others and finish inside the 3-point line as well. And then Sam Menenga, big guy, big, strong, 6'9", 240, can crash the glass, can score inside a little bit too, stretch the floor when he has to. So those are the 2 holdovers from last year. And shockingly, they're leading this team in a lot of major categories, but it's a lot different from what we saw last year. A lot of guys leave. Bob McKillop's gone. And I do think that if you want to play the draw maze in this game, this is a game where you could. This isn't a team that blocks a lot of shots and has a lot of top end size. And I think this is a game where if you want to play Deshaun Shepard, you want to play Fousseyni Drame, maybe not play a center all the time. I think that you could definitely make that work if you want some switchability. Now, you're going to have to block out a guy like Menenga because he's big and strong and crash the glass. But I think you can play this game playing some smaller guys. And then also, Foster Loyer is a smaller guy who's very quick, is a good handle, and moves very well. But guess what? LaSalle has two guys that are also kind of small, but are also very quick and can stay in front of you, and Jameer Briggs and Khalil Brandley. So I do think that they could definitely hound Foster Loyer a little bit in this game, make life tough for him. But you got to keep Sam and then go off the glass, and got to keep Foster Loyer. You got to keep him off the 3-point line. You got to run him off when you can, because he'll shoot the ball at a pretty high clip, and especially from the free throw line too. If this game becomes a close one late, he's going to go to the line at almost 90% this year and knock them down. So it's a lot different of a Davidson team than we see from last year, than that team that made the tournament. A lot of guys leave, the coach retires. Of course, it's going to be a lot different, and you're going to lose some of your quality. But I do think LaSalle has a chance to win this game. I think they're due for some positive shooting here. And I'm actually going to take him at home. I'm going to take him at home. They're going to honor brother Ed Sheehy, who unfortunately passed away, I believe, in December. I'm sure they're going to have a nice little pregame ceremony for him in a moment of silence. But I'm going to take these LaSalle Explorers to get back on track. This is not the same Davidson team that we saw last year that we've been accustomed to, because they have made some tournaments and have been playing some really quality basketball the last couple of years, especially in the A10 under Bob McKillop. So I'm going to take LaSalle to squeak one out here. I know it's a quick turnaround coming around from the St. Louis game on Saturday. A lot of traveling, a lot of moving going on, but I'm going to take him at home here I think this game will be close, and I think that they might be able to squeak one out here and pick up a win even after losing 2 straight.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what you mentioned about the small ball lineup versus Dave's team. I think if there's any team that this could work against that they've played against recently, I definitely think this is the one. And listen, this Dave's team on paper, a little bit better than the LaSalle team, and that's okay. But, this is one of those games where you have to toy around, you have to experiment with things. So see who's gonna get hot in this one, and see who's gonna be able to provide matchup issues. And yeah, I agree. I think LaSalle could definitely pull this one out at home. So I'm gonna take the Explorers as well. This should be a fun one on Tuesday night. All right, and we got 2 games on Wednesday to close out the midweek slate. First we'll go over Temple coming off their big win, taking on South Florida at the Lee Corps Center. That is Wednesday at 7:00. And we had just mentioned that Davidson's 140th in Ken Palm. Well, USF is 139th in Ken Palm, so right above Davidson there. What they do well, they are 37th in offensive rebound percentage, so they love crashing the glass after misses. And another thing, average length of possession. Do you want to guess what number they are there?
307th.
No, they're 69. Nice.
Oh, nice.
I just want to get that out there. But anyway, that's actually not bad. I mean, they play pretty fast. So this will be an interesting matchup here. Obviously, we've seen this USF team before. St. Joe's played them early in the season and lost to them. I believe that was South Florida's first win of the season in that one right before Thanksgiving. So listen, coming off this win against the number 1 team in the country, I definitely think it's fair to say that Temple can beat this team. Will it be an easy matchup? No. The South Florida team's not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. But the same could be said about this Temple team too. So this will be a very interesting one. I think they can't look back and say, oh, we beat Houston like we're on top of the world now, because this sport has a quick way of humbling you. And I think that could be a potential in this one, especially with the inconsistencies that we've seen with this Temple team. So I do think they're going to pull this one out. I do think it'll be a lot closer than maybe some people think coming off of this Houston victory. But what do you think?
So the last time these two teams played, they played down at South Florida, 68-64 win for your Owls. Yep. A couple of things I want to point out here. So they had 18 turnovers to USF's 17. And from the free throw line, almost similar numbers to this Temple-Houston game. Temple was 23-26 from the line, and USF was only 11-19. So another win that they pulled out, partly in which because they shot free throws well. You mentioned their offensive rebounding percentage. I saw the South Florida team, not only against Temple, but I saw them play against Houston as well at the Fertitta Center, and they were fierce, crashing the glass on offense, trying to get the 50-50 balls. It was a very tough and physical first half from what I saw. So you're going to have to put a body on guys. Russell Chiwa killed them with 20 points and 12 rebounds in their last meeting. However, Tyler Harris, the Memphis transfer, averaging 17 points on the year, only had 9 in this game. So they defended him well and forced him to have a bad day. So I look at a couple things here. If you're going to beat Houston at their place, you cannot come around in your next game a few days later and lose to the South Florida Bulls team at home. You can't do that. You cannot do that if you want to have any shot of playing in any type of postseason play. So you keep them off the glass. We've seen Temple have really good rebounding days. We've seen them against Cincinnati. They dominated the glass. Jaleel White had 10 boards in the last game against Houston, even though they got out rebounded by a small margin. But if you get out rebounded by Houston, I mean, teams like that are a dime a dozen. That happens all the time. That's what they do. So you need to crash the glass, try and limit this team to 1 rebound, and you got to cut down on the turnovers. Because there's another game that they were able to pull out because they shot free throws well. But if you're going to turn the ball over 18 times, it's very hard to win games like that. So you cut down on the turnovers, try and hold the South Florida team to 1 shot. They should have no problem beating them. But I'm telling you, I don't want to say it would shock me if they lost this game, because here's the thing. We still don't know what Temple team we're going to get every night. That's the bottom line. I mean, we've seen both extremes here. They can literally have a top 3, top 5 win in college basketball this year. They can also have some of the worst losses. So you still don't know what to expect from this team is the bottom line. But the last game against South Florida, they shot free throws well. Damian Dunn had 19 points. Caleb Battle at 15. Hyseer Miller added 13. But you got to keep them off the glass, continue to shoot your free throws well, and you got to cut down on these turnovers as well. So I do think they'll win this game. I think they should, no problem. But you cannot drop this game. You can, if you want any sort of momentum, like literally this will almost negate the Houston win if you're going to drop this one to a team that you've already beaten once, and then you're going to lose to them at home. You can't drop this one. So I'll take the Owls. I think they got some good juju going. I think that now that Temple realizes just how good they can be, I think that's going to make them hungrier, and they're going to want to put it all together. They got another opportunity here at home too. So I'll take the Owls. I think they'll win this one, hopefully comfortably. But now that they realize how good they can be, I think they're going to put away this team pretty easy and play with a lot of confidence. So it's not going to be easy because this is a physical team that's going to crash the offensive glass, try and get 50-50 balls. But I will take the Owls here. I think they're going to stack another one in the American Conference here.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this can go one of 2 ways. They're either going to overlook USF coming off this Houston win, and they're going to play to the way they had played at points previously this year, or they're going to think, hey, we can do this. Why not? And they're gonna play out of their minds and beat a team that they should beat. Even if they don't play completely out of their minds, they're gonna play well enough to beat a team that they should beat, and should beat decently handily. So we'll see. But I agree. I do think the Owls are gonna pull this one off and keep the good times rolling, as they say. So we'll move on to the other game, the final game of this Big 5 slate during the week. Also on Wednesday at 7. St. Joe's traveling to George Washington. First time talking about this Colonels team this year, so let's get into them. 10-9 on the season, 169th in Ken Palm. This is a pretty good offense. We got here. 30th in effective field goal percentage. They're 5th in 2-point percentage. They're 25th in free throw percentage. So they do some things very well on offense. And their leading scorer, James Bishop IV, almost 22 points per game at 21.9. So definitely a player that St. Joe's going to need to keep their eye on and game plan for. Another person who is pretty good in this Colonels team, Ricky Lindo Jr., 9.7 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block per game. So he's an important piece that they're going to need to keep an eye out for. But really, James Bishop IV is the engine of this pretty good offense here for George Washington. So this will be a really interesting one, I think, because St. Joe's, coming off 3 straight wins. They're a little hot right now. Don't let them get hot, but they're a little hot right now. Their offense has been better recently. Obviously Cam Brown 25 points and Eric Reynolds 23 points in their last game. This could be a pretty intriguing matchup, I will say. How do you see this one playing out?
So unfortunately, I think this winning streak for the Hawks is going to come to an end going down Foggy Bottom. I like saying that, Foggy Bottom. It's just cool little area. Pretty good year for the Cardinals so far. 4th place currently in the A10, 4-2. Under first-year head coach too, and Chris Caputo, who comes over from the U, who comes over from Miami after a good year from the Hurricanes last year, making the Elite Eight for the first time in school history. So a guy who's been around a lot of successful teams and under a great head coach in Jim Larinaga, he comes over. And got some pretty good players here. He's got Ricky Lindo, who used to play at Maryland. He's got Brendan Adams, who used to play at UConn. Guys who are fourth and fifth year guys. And then you talk about James Bishop the fourth. I mean, this guy, you want to talk about guys that are a bucket. This guy is a bucket. He had 44 points in a loss to Hofstra earlier in the season, and then had a 40 bomb in conference till just had 27, and they beat Dayton at home. Like, I'm starting to think that this team might have something here. They're playing very well. They just knocked off a top 3 team in the conference, and they're right there, and they're having a good season. So as good as the Hawks have been, they're going up against some experience, some guys who have been in high major programs, and they're going up against a terrific scorer in James Bishop, who, when he's hot, I mean, he's on fire. You're not going to be able to stop him. So he had 40 at Loyola Chicago too. I mean, this guy can fill up the box score with the rest of them. So I'm going to take the Colonels here. It won't be the Colonels so much longer. I heard they're changing the moniker. Not really here to speak on why or what, but they're going to change the moniker. So hopefully, not going to see the Colonels for too much longer, but I do think GW pulls out a win here. It's been a pretty damn good season for them. I'm sure they didn't have much expectation, but the first year guy coming in, but man, James Bishop can score with the best of them. I think he's going to give this team problems. And I don't know, maybe we could be looking at a 20-25 point plus game for him. So I think he'll be on fire. I think GW will pick up a win. And I think people are going to start to be like, hey, this might be a legit team to keep your eye on when the A10 tournament comes around. So I think GW pulls out a win here. And if I could just say about the whole moniker thing, you've already got the Rhode Island Rams. We got the VCU Rams. We got the Fordham Rams. We got the Loyola Chicago Ramblers. Why not we add it? How about we add another? I saw a lot of people on A10 Twitter talking about it. How about the George Washington Rams? Let's add another one to it. What do you say?
Oh, man. Could you imagine five teams with Ram in their name in the A10? That would be something else. But why not? I think I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm going to take GW in this one. If there's one thing that St. Joe's doesn't do well, it's defend shooting. And, we've seen them have trouble closing out and letting up big shooting performances to some teams. And I definitely think that this team in particular could be one of their victims of that. So especially with James Bishop IV, like we mentioned, almost 22 points per game, he can go off at any point in time. And there's no reason to think he can't go off against the St. Joe's team. So give me GW here. I definitely think they can win by a decent margin, maybe around 7 to 10 points, somewhere in that range. So give me GW here to close out this slate of the midweek.
Maybe we could also mention the fact that St. Joe's hasn't had to leave Philadelphia for a while. They got a home game against Loyola. They just had to go across town to LaSalle, another home game against UMass. Now they're going to have to go down to our nation's capital and get back on the road. So I think that could also throw them for a loop. Had some home cooking for a while, been able to sleep in their own bed. And hopefully, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do that when this game comes around. So I think maybe there's that you got to throw into. They haven't been on the road in a while. And because of that, only I guess strengthens my argument for GW. So I picked 2 of the big 5 teams to win. Unfortunately, I think this is the odd one out here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I mean, listen, it's not an insane road trip. It's definitely a bus and not a plane, but this is, they've been home for a few weeks and now they're gonna have to go on the road and, like you said, not sleep in their own beds. They're gonna have to stay at hotels and play on somebody else's floor and not use their own facilities. These things add up. So that, along with the fact that they probably won't be able to stop a nosebleed in this one, give me GW. However, with that being said, that is all we got for this one. Unfortunately, I know we're out of time. We're out of games, but we will be back this weekend with more. But until then, make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube. Make sure you follow us on social media on Twitter and on Instagram at Big Five Pod. Make sure you tune into our audio only versions on Apple Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And as always, thank you guys for tuning in. We really, 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 really do appreciate it. All the support and love that we get. It means the world to us. I'm not going to speak for you, but I am going to speak for you because I know we've talked about it. We agree. We appreciate all the love and support from everybody. And that's all I got. Any final thoughts from you?
Just want to say one thing. Quick little note about women's basketball in the Big Five. How about Maddie Segrist from Villanova? I believe she's not only the leading scorer in NCAA Division I this year, she just became Villanova's all-time leading scorer, men's or women's. She's got the rest of the season ahead of her, so she is probably going to smash this record into oblivion. And with now a group of players that are coming in that unfortunately don't have the COVID eligibility that some other people are using. And you have Jordan Bohannon at Iowa uses COVID year now as the all-time games played leader in NCAA. You know what I mean? Not that it's a knock on anyone at all. Like, oh, you only scored this much because you played
We couldn't
5
control
whatever. You know,
that.
that doesn't matter. But I just think that the mark that she's at, and she's still got the rest of the season. Villanova's very good. They will probably be in the NCAA tournament, and they're going to get a conference tournament and tournament games. Like Maddie Siegrist is not only got the record, she's going to smash it, I think, into oblivion to the point where it's going to be around a very long time. They always say records are meant to be broken, but congrats, Maddie Siegrist, Villanova's all-time leading scorer, men's or women's basketball, and she's nowhere near done yet because there's still plenty of season to go. And like I said, they always say records are made to be broken, but something tells me this one's going to be around for quite some time. So congrats to Maddie Siegrist. And not only that, Villanova women's basketball having a very good season this year. They're ranked, I believe they're 17-3. They beat Butler. Watched the end of that game as she broke the record. So congrats to her. And hey, how about Denise Dillon and the Lady Wildcats doing a great job this year, looking like they're going to make the tournament for the second year in a row. So very, very good season for them. And great career for Maddie Siegrist, and it's not over just yet.
Yeah, no, shout out Maddie Siegrist. Congrats on breaking that record. That's awesome. And sounds like she's gonna keep breaking it. She's gonna keep adding all that total. So good for her. And yeah, that Villanova, the Lady Wildcats they're doing something this year. They're nationally ranked, like you mentioned. They blew out Butler. I was watching that game a little bit too. That was not pretty. But shout out to them. I'm excited to see them in the NCAA tournament. Hey, they might be the only Big Five team in the NCAA tournament this year. So
yeah, or actually, excuse me, I believe it was Creighton. I think I get them mixed up because
they play near each other, but
yeah, I believe it was
actually not really.
Sure we get that
but
right.
Yes, I think you were right. I think it was Creighton, but they did blow them out. But yeah, shout out to Maddie Siegrist. Shout out to Villanova women's basketball team doing some great things. So yeah, that's all you got. That's all I got. Got a great week ahead of us in Big Five basketball and college basketball. The national scene's heating up too, especially the Big 12 is just gotta love Big 12 basketball. But anyway, with that being said, thank you all for tuning in again, as always, and we will see you for our weekend preview in a few days.